welcome to the Deeper Into Movies podcast. My name is Stephen T. Hanley. I'm the founder of Deeper Into Movies. We are a pop-up cinema based in London and New York. Today on the podcast, I am joined by writer Lili Anolik. Lili is a contributing editor to Vanity Fair, and she has a new book about, I'm going to say, the frenemy, the relationship between writers Joan Didion and Eve BABITZ. It's incredible. It's a fascinating story, and it's salacious. And I always like this about Lili. She really likes good gossip. There's a difference between bad gossip and good gossip, but she loves good gossip. Crazy tales of Hollywood and the entertainment industry. We are here to promote the Didion Babbitt's book. We get into a bit of that, but this is a really big freewheeling conversation, which is basically like a mirror to our friendship, where we call each other and just talk about pop culture. Lili has also some great podcasts you need to check out. There's one on Bennington, the wonderful and strange campus in America, which gave birth to Bret Easton Ellis, Donna Tartt, Brick Smith on the Fall. It's just a strange and fascinating university, and lots of wonderful people come from there. So check that out. And there's a really great podcast about Tracy Lords, and it's just like Boogie Nights the podcast. I urge you to check it out. And finally, I loved Didion Babbitt's, but I kind of almost enjoyed the audiobook more. Lili's got a great voice, and the great Emma Roberts jumps in to read some letters. So it's just great. It almost feels like a radio play. So check out that on either formats. Get the book or do the audiobook. So this is me and Lili Anolik.
It's so good to see you. We've talked so much over email.
Yeah, I know. I don't talk over email. This is like some old school correspondence, which doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, very 19th century of us.
It really is. We need to publish these transcripts and get cancelled. All our shit talking.
Yeah, so that's my only fantasy. An updated version of Clarissa. Only our fate will be worse, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I just got a message yesterday from this. Do you know Another Magazine?
Yeah.
Yeah. The editor of Another Magazine messaged me and said, I'm clearing out all my DVDs. Do you just want to take them? Oh. So behind me is like, I think I can I? It's literally just shit piles like this everywhere of
great, right?
His DVDs, and they're all so weird and horny. He's got, where's my favorite?
Did you say weird and horny? I think I saw I Am Curious Yellow. Did I see that flash by?
Yeah, and I've got I Am a Nymphomaniac.
That title.
Gospel According to Matthew, my favorite, Pasolini.
You really, this is a great
Raising Cain, a really overlooked De Palma. Greetings, super early De Palma.
I've never seen that. There's Hi Mom and Greetings, right? I've never seen those.
Yeah, I've got all the early ones, like Story of O, all these weird Emmanuel in New York and all this stuff. It's
someone was just shitting on De Palma to me. Wait, who was it? It was De Palma.
Name and shame them. Who the fuck was talking shit on the king?
They were calling him trashy, which seemed like a stupid put down for him. Fuck,
I think when you get De Palma,
Yeah.
and you fall under the spell of the just the style and the cinematic language and stuff, and the
Yeah.
magic of it all, and then it's just heaven. It's the dream logic of it all, and all the just the perversion and the fantasy and the voyeurism and
You're preaching to the choir. I
yeah.
also I don't like it when people use trashy as a pejorative, you know?
No, trash is good. It's kind of like guilty pleasure, or
Oh, that's that
using
one.
the word like pop song as like a negative, and then it's like you try and fucking write a hit. God damn it, it's way more complicated than it instantly appears.
Guilty pleasure is the one actually that's the one I hate the most. You hit the one I hate the most. I know I'm dealing with an asshole if the person uses that term.
Yeah, or they don't have confidence in their in their beliefs and tastes. And I know, was it like John Watts was saying something about you got to have good taste to know what bad taste is,
You do.
or kind of like when he's gross out, he's on the right side of gross out. That it's not just like edgelord kind of trying to put the most disgusting thing on screen. There's like a good taste, bad taste to it.
Oh, no, there's a total aesthetic. It's also just here's another thing. It's like guilty pleasure. It's when people say a movie doesn't hold up. That means your taste didn't hold up. It's nothing to do with the movie. Fucking take the onus. You should be bearing responsibility. That means your
I don't
taste.
know. Some things grow with you and some things fall out.
Yeah,
But
but isn't it more a reflection on you than the thing? Like, give me an example. Just give me an
I
example.
guess it's kind of a thing of where you were at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
The only real example I've got is when I said to my girlfriend, let's watch the Bundy movie. And I was like, it's crazy. It's so wild and fun. And then it was just a woman getting her head smacked in for 10 minutes. And my girlfriend was like, really? And I think when I was in my early 20s, obviously I didn't think that shit was, cool,
Yeah.
but I had such a better palate for really extreme, horrible shit. And kind of like around the French Extreme time of like Martyrs and things like that,
Oh yeah.
when I just wanted to put the worst thing into my head. And I'd kind of, like, let's go watch Salo, at 11 a.m. before uni and shit like that. And now when I hit 40, I'm like, I don't want this in my fucking head. I want to watch, a Bob Fosse musical or something wholesome,
Yeah.
or just I know I just can't do it. I hit a cap, and I was like, I can't do this shit anymore.
I thought about you. I thought about you 2 days ago. You remember? Okay, Graydon Carter had a book party for me on Tuesday, and I never wear makeup. I don't wear makeup, but somebody was doing my makeup because it was like a party, right? And it was an older makeup artist, and we talked about. They all laughed because is Patty Hansen in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was her one movie. And we got into this long conversation about it. But that was one of those movies, right? Like where it got just shit on at the time. And now it's like when
It's
it's the opposite of the movie didn't hold up, right? It's the
it's a
opposite.
fucking masterpiece, but I think it was kind of cursed in the way that Rosemary's Baby was seen as deeply sinister
Yeah.
afterwards because of the tragedy attached to it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like now, I don't know if there was some great Julia Roberts rom-com and she's just been brutally murdered the week before. It's like, come on, guys, it's Julia in a little lol rom-com here. It's like, no, this is fucking evil. But the great Quentin Tarantino said that the beauty of a film is when you watch it, she is so alive.
Yeah.
And radiant and charming and wonderful on the big screen that you forget
What's
the
going to
tragedy.
happen?
Yeah.
Do you know what I always felt? I always felt though that the Lynch movie Lost Highway?
That's his best movie. Let the record reflect.
It pains me to say this because Mulholland's my favorite, but I think Lost Highway is maybe the best. It's the
It's the
greatest.
best.
The best.
And he was so far ahead of the.
That's what I was going to say. Yes.
But that's like 20 years ahead of the resurgence of noir and the tropes. And everyone was kind of like, why is it, why has she got this old timey type of dialogue and the boss's wife and all those tropes.
I loved it when it came out. I remember it was the first Lynch I saw, and I loved it when it came out. But there's something about like it's also just like it anticipates everything. It's almost like it could not be appreciated in its time because it was too prescient. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're right about the noir thing, but even about Blake bumping off his wife, it just there's something about that movie that just it needs time. It just needs time to like flower fully.
Yeah, like Eyes Wide Shut.
There you go.
Just way too much hype and way too much. I know, and they sold it completely different. Like Tom and Nicole are going to be fucking in this film for real, and all that weird stuff. And everyone, it was just such a like
they don't
tabloid bait. No, everyone was just thinking they're going to really. I think everyone was really trying to put the puzzle pieces together, and they had this whole thing that it's the closest thing he's going to do to Terry Southern's Blue movie when he was going to adapt that for a while, and then his damn wife told him that he can't do a porn movie. She'd be really upset, and cockblocked him on that potential masterpiece and stuff. And well, I don't know, when I saw it, I was so hyped, and then I didn't get it, and then it was just such an oddity, and then I keep on coming back to it, and I watch it like once a year at least.
And that's like maybe the highest tribute you can pay a movie, though, right?
Yeah, like it's like that album that you just keep on coming back to, or first you like the single, and then you're drawn to the closer, and then there's that weird long track in the middle you're stuck to, and then you keep on just mining different tracks and different aspects of the album. It's similar to Eyes Wide Shut. I have like new favorite weird parts I get obsessed with each time I watch it.
That's right. There's something, it's a little bit like Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho, right? Like you really weren't going to be able to appreciate that book that came out in 91 or 92 until 2016, right? Because it anticipated Trump in that particular way. Or even like Great Gatsby, like when you're reading Great Gatsby, which comes out in the 20s, and somebody, like, doesn't Meyer Wolfsheim work at Swastika Holding Company? Like it's like it picks up on World War II. It picks up on Hitler and World War II. There's some of those things, they just expand and expand. They cannot possibly be appreciated in their time because they're looking ahead.
Yeah, or American Psycho's got it's such a fucking amazing title for a start, that it's almost like, and then you kind of hone in on, isn't about the crazy serial killer, isn't about the yuppie serial killer. Yeah. And then the more you go back to it, that section, all the reviews are incredible. The balls on this man to stick full album reviews in a novel is just fucking incredible. I rate it so highly, and those are really good. The little bits when he says like I took out $30, so I have a cool 1,000 exactly in my wallet and stuff. I love that. And my favorite thing he does is those long stream of conscious chapters, a glimpse of a Thursday afternoon where he's just losing his mind through the streets of New York and eating ham from the deli, like straight from the thing, calling his secretary to propose, and then he drops some coins in someone's cup thinking they're homeless, and it just sinks into the
coffee,
into the Americano. It's like the black abyss, and he's just like, wait, what am I doing?
There must be something about those words together, American and
it hits. I don't know what it is. I think it's one of the hardest titles. Like when you hear a really great band name like Velvet Underground or Jesus and Mary Chain, you're like, fuck, I know that's great already. It's kind of like that it just hits.
It hits, but there's something about those things that like they set you to dreaming. I always think when my parents would let me watch anything, but for whatever reason, when I was little, I didn't watch Twin Peaks. It was like self-censoring, but my babysitter would watch it, and I was supposed to be in bed, and I would crawl outside, where she was watching it, and I would just listen to the music, and the music frightened me so badly and was like thrilling to me. And then the Lynch experience was as good as that music. It was like my body told me what was coming. You just heard it. Like that with American Psycho or a great band name like Velvet Underground. You just know, like your body knows. It's what you want.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's broad and it's weird, but It works perfectly.
You tell me why. So are you a Pauline freak? Is that why it's called Deeper Into Movies?
Both. I'm a Yole Tango fan, and they have a song called Deeper Into Movies, and I love Pauline as well. So kind of because we screen in like indie venues or art spaces or DIY spots, the kind of indie ethos was kind of a thing due to just
Yeah.
DIY necessity when
Yeah.
we were starting out. And I love Pauline Kael too. So we're kind of like somewhere between the kind of punk indie DIY ethos and the
Yeah.
deep nerd kind of cinephile academic, and that that beautiful Raging Bulls and Easy Riders era of cinema where Pauline was starting. Is that's the two, that's between the two.
Yeah. So it hits every sweet spot. Plus,
Yeah,
it's a great porny title. It's just great.
yeah, that's why we have our logo font. Everyone's kind of like, people are always like, I love it, it looks like a manual or a porno. And I was like, I was going for Philip Roth, but same energy, let's be real.
Yeah, it's identical.
Yeah,
Identical. I was friends, like the way I kind of got into being published was because I knew Al Goldstein, who did Screw Magazine. He was like
yeah,
a porn guy. And I remember he was very disapproving of Roth. Roth bases a character on him. Is it anatomy lesson? He has a Roth character. So he came down to the Screw Magazine offices and spent like a week with Al, and they would go to Plato's retreat. And Al had total contempt for Philip Roth because Philip Roth never took off his pants. That would be
oh,
a deep
that's a great.
thing.
Yeah,
Like
what's your favorite Philip Roth novel?
Counterwife.
Have I read? I don't think I've read that one.
You know what? Actually, it's probably American Pastoral. I think that was the first one of his I read.
Yeah.
Um, I liked the one where the woman poops on, like she shits on the carpet. Is that My Life as a Man? It's about his first wife.
Oh, one of the wives wrote a biography of just my hellish life with Phil,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I really need to get into that.
Not the Claire Bloom one is lame. Leaving a Doll's House.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, maybe that's it.
No,
Okay.
don't have time. She just whines about him. It's like it's not exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of like, did you read the packet before? you know, it's like it's all out there. Come on.
So, what's your favorite?
Sabbath Theater, 100%, 100%.
All true Roth fans like that one. He jerks. Here's how it goes for me with Roth. I go on a Roth kick. I read one, then I get so fucking excited. Then I read two, three, and four, and then by fourth, I hate him. And I think I read Sabbath in that order. Like it came at the bad part of the cycle, so I have to reread
Yeah,
it.
and Everyman. I think Everyman is so slept on. There's a whole. I think his friend dies at the beginning, and it's just a whole chapter breaking down someone's life.
It's really late Roth, right?
Yes, basically, I think it was a really hot girl. I liked said Everyman was the one, and I was like, to the bookshop. Just that was it.
I
So
think
I kind of wanted to have a conversation with her next time I saw her, so I did that. But yeah, it starts off with a whole breakdown of someone's life and just someone aging and passing, and I'm pretty sure he's sniffing panties and
it's our boy.
yeah, and I was like, go off, King. So I think again that's my other that's my second Goodreads review of the podcast. In this book, he sniffs panties.
How did you start? Because you're even young. Like I'm born in 78, so I was the wrong age to read Pauline Kael. Like when I'm coming of age, she stopped writing for the New Yorker. How did you start reading her?
I think from just hearing her from De Palma and Schrader,
Yeah.
and then I liked all the titles like I Lost It at the Movies and When the Lights Go Down. And I think the first thing was when I realized she was writing about the cinema experience and the
Yeah.
kind of the details of a queue or what the crowd was like or what the people next to us were doing. And just before lockdown hit, I was in America and I bought a shit ton of Criterion movies, and then I bought a big TV, and then lockdown hit, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to weather the storm. This is my like cinephile, bunker, apocalypse
Yeah.
bunker. And then I watched Blowout because I was going through a big thing. I went through all the Schrader movies. I watched a bunch of Bogdanovich movies I hadn't seen, and then I watched Blowout, and I had the most weird, moving experience. And I was like, this is the high watermark of De Palma's work, and in a sense, cinema and the music and the tragedy and the shots he was pulling off, and all those great stories about how some of the reels got stolen, and all of Hollywood was like, Brian, this is the most fucked up thing ever. What can we do? And everyone rallied around him to help him get back to do some pickup shots and stuff. And I just had a moment, and I was like, cinema's over. It's lasted 100 years. We're good. And this, nothing of this scale or of this type of magic is going to happen again. And then I was reading Kayla around the same time, and I just got very romantic about that era. But Blowout really fucked me up. Blowout is one of the most heavy experiences.
Totally. And sometimes when I love a movie so much, I don't want to watch it again. I don't want to do it again. That was one of those movies for me. I watched it and then I couldn't. It was like upsetting and moving to me in a particular way, and I didn't want to have it again, or I didn't want to rewrite the experience or something. But yeah, I love that movie. It's his best.
Yeah, and people can shut the fuck up about John Travolta. He's spectacular. He's so haunted. He's so goofy and kind of lonely and tragic.
You're right. Mentioning Schrader, I did like a long interview. I did like some oral history of Gigolo, and I'm sure you know because everybody knows, but Travolta had the role, and I guess the material, just kind of the subtextual gayness of that movie and who he was, and he got frightened off. He withdrew. Do you think he'd have been better than Gere?
No. Gere's got it. Gere's got the riz.
Yeah.
Travolta's a hot person, but
There's a warmth to him in that you need chill for that movie.
Yeah. I think, Gere looks like he fucks.
Yeah, he does.
So I think it's that, and the clothes and the style and all the Armani of it all. You definitely need Gere. I have a dream when I become a Elon Musk level billionaire that Lesson Zero is a great movie, but nothing in the book actually happens in the movie. So I want to feed AI the book, like for a fax machine, and then just say, recreate the entire movie with the exact same cast. Everything looks perfect, but can we just have all? I need the snuff movie. I want to see more sex work. I want to see the cocaine and the.
Can you feed one more detail in?
Sure. What do you want?
And Brett will not indulge me whenever I try to make him have this conversation with me. Take out, swap Andrew McCarthy and
God.
I hate
Who
him.
Who do you want?
Switch it with Spader. I want Spader as Clay.
And then who's Clay?
I don't care. I just put McCarthy as. I just change it up. Just switch them.
Okay, but he's got the kind of passivity of the. I just feel just like he's I
understand.
You know the kids say like NPC. I just feel like it's a non-playable character just going through the movie, and his emptiness works in that. Kind of the same way that Keanu Reeves, I think, works best in like My Private Idaho, because the film is just so stoned and odd that his oddness works in that.
There's something, maybe it's just because I know Brett pretty well, and I find Brett both passive and sinister. I mean this is a compliment. I love his deadpan affect. It's just closer to Spader, and there's such a nasty intelligence to Brett. I just fucking indulge me. One version, just do one version.
Okay, yeah, I'll do the Lily cut. I'll just get AI just to swap out with some hot Melrose Drive kind of.
Yes, that's all I asked.
Yeah.
Like McCarthy's just so unappetizing to me. So yeah, give me Spader.
Yeah, I can work with that. Everything else is perfect. I can watch that movie just for the fucking vibe of that movie. I think it's wonderful. I can rewatch that every year.
You know what? So I'm trying to do something with Courtney Love now, and I don't know if it'll work or not. But one of the things she tells me is that she hate read that book when it came out, and that she had very badly wanted to be an extra in that movie. And they wouldn't let her into the party scenes. They said she was like too trashy or something.
Yeah.
But in there too. She's got to be an extra in the party scene.
We can clean it up. Yeah, we can just, put one of those puffy dresses on her and that will be
To be good. She and Brad Pitt
perfect.
in the background.
Yeah. I don't know if you can, is it visible? I've got here I've got my Billionaire Boys Club still
It's so
from
great.
the TV miniseries.
Not the one that Emma Roberts and Ansel and Kevin Spacey.
No,
The
no,
back in the day.
no. Judd Nelson got the miniseries.
I've never seen it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna be ready.
Dude,
I know I'm
I
ashamed.
think the full thing is on YouTube if you want to cheat, but it's like it's probably the most accurate Bryson Ellis era. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, it's all worth it. There's one scene which is they're all together. You know the rough story of where approaching
Oh,
they're approaching all these business guys for deals and stuff, and they say something corny like to Judd Nelson, like, well, if we're going to all these deals, we need to look the part to be the part.
yeah.
And Judd's like, guys, what do you mean? And the other guy's like,
Is Judd Joe Hunt?
yes,
You got
yeah.
it.
And they're like, you need work, Joe. Cut to the needle drop of Pet Shop Boys, let's make lots of money. And it's all told in stills. And they're just going through Melrose, pull up in the car, just going to like Ralph and all the stores and just Armani and just trying on all the suits. And there's all those kind of goofy, like with the ties and stuff. It's the best 3 minutes of cinema. And I think I told industry guys to watch this, and I think that's why they have a hard 80s soundtrack of just new wave and like Pet Shop Boys, Simple Minds, and all this stuff, Psychedelic Fuzz, all through their new series, because I think that was my recommendation.
Who do you think should direct Shards?
I'm okay with Christopher Borgle's first two films. I thought were excellent.
Oh,
I think he's got chops. I think he can handle the material. Ideally, obviously, in a perfect world, David Fincher
yeah.
would be great. But I think between Brett Borgley and Luca, I think it would be great. I'm hopeful.
This is a dumb idea. It's like counterintuitive idea. I
Or
know.
Roger Avery is a fucking genius and doesn't get enough respect in this life. But he doesn't do much himself. But I think his Rules of Attraction adaptation is
Have you ever
just
seen? I think there's some bootleg or something of like a part of Glamorama that he did or something. Isn't this something like this?
okay.
No,
I've messaged him and I pretty much got it confirmed that if we go to his house,
you can see it.
we can watch it. We should do that.
What's your opinion? What was your opinion of the Twin Peaks sequel? I don't know what you call it when it came back.
Okay, I'm going to drop a bomb on this podcast right here, right now.
Do it.
Not watched. I didn't
Whoa,
watch it. Didn't watch it.
what?
Mark Maron has this great quote where I think he said he just tweeted something innocuous like, I really liked the last Arcade Fire album.
Yeah.
And then someone was like, late to the party, dude. That's like 6 months old. And he said,
What?
I like to go to the party when I want to join it. So that way I know if I'm having a good time. And I think that was my take on the Twin Peaks to Return, that if I get one more fucking nerd posting like, spookiest show ever, best show ever, and I'm like, it's been out a fucking week. We've seen 2 episodes. Calm down.
No, I
So
respect that.
I swerved it, and then I tried the first episode, and I knew Lynch was being deliberately jarring. Like, we're back in Twin Peaks world, and we've just got this guy in that weird machine
Yeah.
that he's
No,
tending to, and I couldn't do it, and I've never gone back, and somehow don't feel the need to
no, and you have it
do
to
it.
look forward to. And it wasn't actually a particularly pleasurable experience. I was just curious, I was curious. I was
It
curious
looked
as to,
like he was still in Inland Empire headspace, where he's just
which I don't like. I don't like Inland Empire. And I remember that Mary, when she told me, I always get angry. I think people who tell me that they love it or think it's the best are pretentious, like they're full of shit. And she told me there was no script and she just sort of shot kind of randomly. So people who tell me that it coheres for them, I know are,
no, the whole Polish strand of it. Get the fuck out of it. Obviously, it's got Lynch doing when Lynch turns on the eerie or the
yeah,
sinister and the pans across the dark rooms, and your eyes are scanning the room, trying to work out if there's something that you should be freaked out about or
yeah.
whatever. That's genius. That's absolute genius. Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me slaps. I think that's top tier Lynch for
All right.
me.
Can I tell you something? You want to know why it doesn't work for me?
Why?
It doesn't work for me. She is the wrong physical type. Laura Palmer is the wrong physical type. She's too like healthy. He needs someone smaller in that role. She looks like a woman to me. She doesn't look like a kid. She doesn't work for me. She's
Right.
okay.
That's true. That's kind of everything. Well, that's like every. That's when everyone got freaked out about Larry Clark's kids when he was like, "No, these are actually 15-year-olds,
Yes.
as the same age as the fucking people in Greece and what have you.
Yeah.
This is that actual age, and this is
Not
how
shame.
these
Yeah.
no no 5 o'clock shadow, just like
Yeah.
weird baby face kids being disgusting. Yeah,
I respect it, and I need that. I need that. It lacks pathos for me when when it's just like you look like an adult. You should be okay here.
I was re-listening to your Bennington podcast
I love
and
that.
just got to the point where this has got ridiculous now. But when I was listening to the Donna crowd and
Yeah.
everyone, the whole Latin class dressing a certain way,
Yeah. I love that.
that
Yeah.
I was literally thinking, should all my staff have a uniform look now? Should can I bring them in to just have
Yeah.
like some sort of
I think it's
overarching aesthetic and stuff? It's so great, and that brought me back to the same era when my brother had American Psycho.
yeah.
I've been thinking about this a lot because I want to include him in the physical media show. That my cousin had this loads of cool shit, and when he lived with his parents, there was this closet in the corridor with two doors, and it would open out, and he'd have all his VHS collection, all his CD collection, and he had loads of. He was really into LA gangster rap like Snoop and Dre and stuff, and he had all these super explicit CDs, and he just played me like he's like joining something crazy, and he just played me the most violent, foul mouthed hip hop track, and I'd be blown away. But he had the original Secret History with the plastic dust jacket that you find in when you go to the classic bookstore. That
Yeah.
is originally already genius Simon Schuster packaging
Yeah.
on that one. And then he had American Psycho, and then later on he had The Informers and stuff. But it blew my mind, and that was such an exciting era where, because I'd go to the Tower Records or the Virgin Megastore in London, and there'd be the records, the movies, and then the books, and then there'd be that certain
Yeah.
collection they'd have in the stores of like would have Donna Tartt, Douglas Copeland,
Jeez,
Elizabeth
yeah.
Wurtzel, and
Mhm.
I was like all the Gen X goats, like the Bright Lights, Big City, and stuff, and I was like, this is where it all fucking started for me. This is all my
We live in Tribeca, right? Like in New York. And I remember my dad having Bright Lights, Big City. And there was something, it's like what we were talking about, I don't know, I guess the Twin Peaks music or um, uh, Velvet Underground, but I remember I loved that cover. It's a young man in a trench coat and he's about to go into a restaurant. Do you know what I'm talking
Oh
about? It's
shit. No, I haven't seen that edition. Okay, I need that edition.
the real one. It's the vintage contemporary. And it was
Right.
so, but he's walking into a restaurant called Odeon. And I always thought it was cut off, that it was supposed to say Nickelodeon. And I go to Odeon all the time. It's in Tribeca. And I never, like, it's always like, it's like walking into adult life for me every time. Like, there's something so exciting about it.
Oh, sick. We need to go there. I go to the
I'm there
I'm
all the
gonna
time.
I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. The Aloquin or the
Eloquent.
Aloquin. It's the bar hotel they go to in Vale Loft. So it's
Oh
my
my God,
spot.
of course. The Algonquin.
Yeah,
Algonquin,
yeah,
of course.
yeah. I go there, but I can't pronounce it. But I go there and have old fashions and
Of course. No, 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 of course. That's
yeah,
that's
that's a spot. Yeah.
but to me, that was too far. Like that was like to me the 20s and the 30s. There's something about Odeon, which is like just 80s.
Right.
And and it's like, and then Brett will be like, oh yeah, I did coke with Basquiat in the bathroom there. And I'm like, oh, great.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. And that book really kind of holds up. It's like his first, and I don't know, it's my favorite of the McInerney.
I've got Model Behavior on the shelf, which I haven't dug into. I don't know what is deemed as classics, really.
No, that's one of them. It's like, I guess I'm just not partial to it. I don't know. Bright Lights is the one that works on me.
How do you
Um,
feel about? Do you want to? If we put it through the AI machine, are you okay with Michael J. Fox as the character in the adaptation?
I sat through that movie. It was kind of dead to me.
Yeah,
Just pop it all, right?
it just feels like a really corny addiction movie. Like you're out of control and
Stop doing
get a
coke,
grip.
baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Think about your career, goddammit. It's like his life isn't on the line. He's not fucking prostitutes in a Motel 6 trying to score,
No,
he's just doing
no,
your
no,
bump.
no. He's just, and it's funny because it's like basically, I remember I went to Princeton, right? And he ends up with a girl from Princeton, and I have nothing but contempt for my own background. There's just something like he's just like a guy I would have. You know how we're saying we don't like guilty pleasure or people who use the term trashy as a pejorative. There's just something about coming back into the fold at the end that's depressing. Like dating the philosophy major at Princeton just fucking bums me out.
Yeah.
Just to go for something wilder, I guess go for Allison Poole and Model Behavior.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I got the book sent late, so I've been
Oh,
digging into it
yeah,
late.
time.
And the first thing that struck me is because in the intro you were talking about how you stepped into Eve World, you
Yeah,
thought you were out of it, and then you've been dragged back in.
yeah,
How is that? Because on a much smaller scale, anytime I'm researching for a podcast and we do every couple of months we book a speaker to deliver a lecture on a countercultural figure, like we've done Lynch, we've done
yeah.
Aphex Twin, we did an amazing one on Lana Del Rey, we did
Oh,
Mark Fisher. But anytime I go deep into the wormhole, I kind of come away and it feels like, I don't know, like I've been binging on spaghetti bolognese for 3 months,
yeah.
and I'm like, if I see one more fucking dish of spaghetti bolognese. But I'm wondering, because you love her work so much, how is it when you go so deep into someone, and this is like what, 9 years you've been in and out of Evehood?
Longer. I started 2010. Yeah, Eva, but I did it with Bennington too. I mean, I have to. It's like I have to be really hard for the subject. I mean, like, I had to be totally in love, right? That's the only way it'll work. That's how it works for me. So three months is like doing a magazine piece for me, right? Like
Mhm.
it's that to me is a fast fuck, right? Like that for me, that's the, it's like brief monogamy. I'm sorry, what were you even asking? I think I cut you off before
I
you.
was just talking about the relationship to a subject and exploring it to the point where I kind of feel a bit sick and can't listen to that band again or read that book or watch that movie or enjoy that artist in a way.
Well, for me, my appetite always comes back. Like if I'm in love, it comes back. I mean, I get sick of it, but then it comes back. So I basically this is like a hard thing to admit or a hard thing to come to terms with for me, but basically I seem to need 3 tries at something. So for Eve, it was like first I did kind of a long profile of her for Vanity Fair. Then I did a book on her. And then this is another book on, it's on her and Joan Didion, but the same milieu. And I think I did it right with the third one, but I seem to need to keep going back. Like it's so hard to get anything right. And my feelings for Brett are probably deep in that way. And I did like a long Esquire piece on Bennington, long podcast, and I am supposed to do a book on Bennington for Scribner. And I think I need that. I need the 3 times. It's just my metabolism. But if I'm in love, it keeps coming back. I mean, I really don't want to have to go back to Eve again because I think I did everything that could be done. I feel like I did or tried to do. But yes, when it's love for me, it's like it's enduring. You know, I get tired, but my appetite comes back.
You want some more spag bol, as we say. And what's so incredible that I suppose you can't humble brag about this, but you're literally responsible for her coming back into print in wide circulation. That's fucking amazing.
Well, it's like the one nice thing I did, I guess. I mean, it was just, I always feel like, you know, I'm even going to be worse. It's not even going to be a humble brag because I basically, what is not accurate to me is when people say rediscovered her because the world absolutely passed her by when she was actually writing and having a career. She really did not have a moment. She got published, but the world never went gaga for her. And she did not have a successful career, in my opinion. You know, she got published, but never got on. So some of it's what we were talking about a little bit earlier when you're ahead of your time or behind your time, you're somehow not in sync in the proper way. And then maybe the world is ready for you at a certain point, which I do think is what happened with her. I also feel like, you know, just putting her side by side with Joan, who is so shrewd about managing her career and her persona. I mean, I just don't think anybody was better at it than Joan. She was so canny as an operator and as a careerist. So she was very shrewd about just creating this persona and what pictures of herself got released and just how she presented herself in public. Donna Tartt's that way too. And Brett is that way too. But Eve was not shrewd in those ways. And I feel like really what I did for her, like when I first wrote about her for Vanity Fair, was I just gave her a coherent persona. You know, I put together all the details, you know, the MASH note to Joseph Heller, the nude photo with Marcel Duchamp, you know, her sex resume, which was obviously out of this world, just kind of putting it together and then burning herself alive in a fire in a way that was appealing to people. Because I think basically, if you're going to catch on, you have to kind of become a cultural heroine as much as a literary. So I don't know, that's too long an answer.
No, that's a perfect answer. But yeah, one of the things when I was reading, because I'm team Diddy, I'm team Joan.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I was thinking, I was the balance of the two people, but it's so interesting because you became friends with Eve. You spent these years going through letters, interviews, fact checking, getting the he said, she said of different situations, and I was enjoying it. And I'm like, she's so team Eve, but then you couldn't have formed a fucking friendship. Or do you think you could have penetrated Joan in any way? Is it possible to know the real Joan?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did. I just don't think you would. I don't think Eve let me in either. I mean, I think these were both. I think the reason that the second book works, the second Eve book works, like Eve would answer any question. I spent huge amounts of time with her, but she is as opaque and hidden as Joan was. Joan is opaque and hidden too. I mean, you really like sometimes like you find their secret beating hearts, and they're not always in their bodies, right? They're not always in their. So like for Joan, I would say it was Noel Parmentel, right? Like it was the one great love of her life, her boyfriend in the 50s and early 60s. And it was probably Susanna Moore as well, who was a close friend of Joan's, who I think sometimes like you do these interviews and I do them over such an extended period and I have like a female voice. And a lot of times it's, you know, it starts out in person with a tape recorder, but a lot of times it's over the phone where you just feel like you're talking and people, I think, reveal themselves more that way. And I think you also need people over huge spans of time.
Mm-hmm.
It was also having Eve's like all these contemporary documents of Eve's, her journals, her letters, and these letters that Eve wrote that were in the back of her closet after she died. They weren't letters she sent people. Okay, it's really particular what these letters were. These were letters she wrote people and saved but did not send. Right? It's almost like she thought they were too intimate, too personal, too revealing to actually send to the other person, but she didn't discard them. Like they weren't just drafts that didn't come out the way she wanted. So it was like these kind of diaries, right? And where I'm going with this is I don't think complicated people, and also like, Joan and Eve both wrote about themselves. They were their subject matters, but they really only told you what they wanted you to know. I mean, they were very cake guarded, hidden people, right? So to break them open is hard, right? And it's you don't do it in the expected ways. That was my feeling. So it was no Parmentel. It was Susanna Moore. It was Dan Wakefield, who'd been Joan's friend since the 50s. It was her boyfriend from last year of high school through her first year of New York. It was like finding those people, right, and breaking them open on her. That's it. That's what I have to say about this. Like, but I don't think if I had spent time with Joan, I mean, I think Joan was masterful. I don't think she would have given me anything she didn't want me to know, you know?
Yeah, I had a weird connection when I was listening to your Bennington podcast with Donna Tartt and her, like, no fucking press, no photos. It's so goated. There's actually a weird aside when we did our ongoing series. Our ongoing series is pretty much I just pick interesting figures in culture, but often they're so elusive, or like the kind of it was like when Dave Chappelle when he vanished, he was literally referencing what Bobby Fischer did when he left at the peak of his game, and everyone's hypothesizing what would have been the next chess game, or on a much smaller scale, but it's kind of like what would be the next great comedy series Chappelle would have done, or what the next stand-up would have done. He's just like, he's a new Richard Pryor, yada yada. But we're kind of thinking people like that. But I really rate the balls on figures like that who can vanish from the culture, not play the game, not have the Instagram or whatever, not in any world that these people, Tar or Didion would have had an Instagram, but just vanish and then reappear in 10 years with a new release.
He's an artist.
Yeah.
And that's what he cares about the most, right? It's not because he's a famous person incidentally. I mean, that's tremendously appealing, right?
It's the best. It's like, Frank Ocean can do it now. There's just so many few artists in the culture who can vanish and then come back with another work and it be anticipated and excited about. I'm trying to think in movies. I don't know who.
Tarantino kind of have that discipline.
Yeah. There was a theory that all the GOATs don't have social. I think Brett said it on his podcast, or one of his guests said it, that all the great people don't have anyone who's like interested in old Hollywood, like DiCaprio and stuff. I think he randomly posts his wildlife preservation posts, but that's it. There's no socials there.
No, there's
no interviews.
Honestly, you really do have to stay mysterious. I mean, I don't even mean that in like just a public relations way, but being withholding is great. I mean, like where you.
Yeah, it is.
I always just think like my brother read a fucking Stephen King book, and I'm like, oh, he just seems like such a. Who cares about? That's not a writer I care about, but he just seems like such a loser. Like he does his Trump posts. You have to hear their mundane, dumbass opinions about. They just seem so average.
Yeah. Yeah, like Brad, I totally agree. I grew up with Stephen King and stuff, and I love those fucking books. But I love looking at it was funny, Stephen Malkmus was saying about the whole Gen X thing, that we could write cryptic lyrics in the notes, or we could have a weird blurry photo, and you'd be looking at it like and then like, who the fuck are these guys? What are they about? What do they do? And you have no access to their inner life, and it's amazing.
It was fucking amazing. And I just think like you're a detective. I think about this all the time. You were a detective when you were Gen X. You're younger, but I remember like, okay, so like I was a Pauline Kael freak when I was in high school, right? And it was trying to find her volumes. Like it was so hard. I remember stealing them, and I was like a real middle class Brouleau bear, but I stole them from libraries because I had to own them. I had to have them.
Yeah.
stupid shit like she'd write about Broken Blossom, some Lillian Gish silent movie from the 20s. There's no way as an adult person I would have the fucking patience to sit through a minor D.W. Griffith work. But I wanted to get closer to her brain. I wanted to know how she thought. So I would scour like the papers to find out if you could ever find like in Broken Blossoms would be playing on like our PBS station at 3 a.m. like months down the road, and I'd set my alarm. Like you were a detective and you really worked to get things. You know how everything's so readily available now? Like our kids don't have that, right? But because you put in this effort, well, I was going to sit through Broken Blossoms, right? Like,
Yeah.
but there was something like where things were mysterious and hard, and like what you're saying, like you wanted to understand that lyric and it set you to dreaming, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Well, I was a member of 4 video stores at
Yeah.
least.
Yep.
And I remember when I watched the Gen X classic Pump Up the Volume,
Mhm.
and they go through all his cassettes at the beginning, and I was like, what's that? What's that? What's that?
Yes, of
And then I remember he has the Lenny Bruce How to Talk Dirty and Influence People.
course.
And I rang, it would have been W.H. Smith's or something, which is the most normie, basic. They
Right.
just about stocked the John Grisham's.
Yep.
And I'd be like, hey, have you got Lenny Bruce, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People? And the guy was like, no, absolutely not. But there is a bookshop called Compendium Books,
Yeah.
which is like the Skylight Books of London. He was like, ring those guys. And I was like,
And then you find it.
then I find it. And then I did the same with like Last Exit to Brooklyn.
Right.
And I remember there was a thing where like my sister, she's a fucking square. And she was saying to me, look, I'm not buying you any more records. None of this grunge bullshit. Do you want some books? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I was like 13 and I got like JG Ballad Crash because I heard it from
Of course.
Joy Division. And then I got Junkie because I heard about it from Nirvana and Burroughs.
And you wanted to understand those references. You wanted to understand
You
how
had
they're
to. And then doing the deep dives into those things was amazing. Or literally, I sat through 7 fucking chapters of the Cremaster series.
wow,
The
of
Matthew
course.
Barney of it all. And I went back 3 days. 3 days. I got the season ticket and I went to the whole fucking thing.
And you put effort in, right? So you had the
Yeah.
fucking experience.
Well, there's nowhere else I could watch. You can't stream it. No, not to sound like a couple of boomers, but you couldn't stream it. You couldn't download it. Or the same when I'd be in the record store of my very patient mother and she'd be like, what one do you want? That one or that one? And I'm like, well, this Sonic Youth record has got the fucking hit that I love, but this one is meant to be the best one. But I really want the hit. But this is going to be a better record. And maybe if I stay here long enough, you're going to lose your fucking patience with me and buy me both. But often not. Then I'm like, right, I'm going to sit with this record, and it's not going to be instantly accessible. But
No.
there might be a reason why, Kurt Cobain says it's his favorite Sonic Youth record or whatever.
But you wanted to understand. You were actually trying to solve a mystery. No, and there's something that Courtney Love said to me. I noticed when she would move around, it was her gutter snipe years, way before fame, when she was basically out of juvie. She's like a gutter snipe wave floating through America. And I would notice that whenever she came to a city, she would always get to the center of what was hot, right?
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Minneapolis, LA, it didn't matter. Finally, I'm just like, how'd you do it? Like, how did you do it? You had no money, you didn't have connections. And she said that this was her trick. It would be easy to figure out what the hip record store was in town, right? So she would go there and she'd find like a good looking, like a cute, whatever clerk. And she'd ask him for Exile on Main Street by Pussy Galore. Not the Stones, but Pussy
Right.
Galore. It was some bootleg and it didn't even really exist. But when she asked this question, that person then knew she was hip. It was like giving the open sesame. And he would plug her into whatever scene was happening. But like, right, like you had to be a detective. You had to be so clever.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would just be me traveling on trains, or I wanted to go see Chasing Amy when it came out because I love Clerks, and I had to fucking trek across London for like the 1 p.m. screening.
But you're not going to walk out. You're going to sit through it. You're going to
Yeah, no,
think
I
about
enjoyed it. It was just, but it was that was literally, and yeah, pre-internet digging and stuff, or just trying to befriend these obnoxious fucking incel clerks in the record stores and stuff, or trying to impress them with my purchases and I might get like a hot tip or something.
But it kind of did work that way. Mostly that probably didn't go anywhere, but probably a couple of times it did. Probably you found out things that way.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally did. Or kind of like, hey, if you're buying this, you should check out this. I'm like, okay, you know.
Yeah, and maybe it was something not great, but maybe it was something totally, totally great. I mean, it is. It's a wild thing.
There's one thing that I'm really enjoying since I've been deep diving all your material is you're the queen of your side. There's great style in your work, and then you'll do this thing where you're talking directly to the reader, or you say there's something great that I don't know how the hell you pulled off, where you started talking about Eve, and you said, I've mentioned this before in Hollywood's Eve, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's the only way to start
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
story,
yeah.
and that's great. And
Yeah.
yeah, how do you? Is this something you realize you doing? You've got this conversational. You're stylistic. It's smooth. It's very pleasurable to read,
100%.
and then you just throw in these. Oh, by the way, or something. I'm trying to think of more examples that I've.
No, I know what you're talking. I know I do it.
Yeah,
Sometimes I work. I was such a loser at this for so long, but I always I'm like an embarrassingly hard worker. And I feel like it took me forever to come up with a style. And now it's just instinct. So I don't know how to answer because I feel like it took me forever. But I think I have a good sense of when, or not good sense, but like you develop a sense of when you can get away with that and when you can't, and when you're going to be annoying or trying the reader's patience. I don't know. It's just instinct.
it's great. You do it on the pods too, but yeah, that was just a great flourish there. I was like, how is she pulling off this? It's so in.
Stephen, I love that. Thank you.
That's yeah. I was trying to get at Brett as to how he does his stream of conscious sections, but he wouldn't give me the. I was wondering were they refined and adjusted, or do they just like flow? Because
he's extremely careful, and I'm with him in all kinds of different circumstances, and he drinks and I don't. And there's information he'll give up, and there's information he won't. And the one time I felt like I was around him when someone got something out of him that was a direct question about a book. I have this was in I was just turned four. I was this no, it's I think the day I turned 39, and I was in Vegas because I was doing something for Vanity Fair and Britney Spears. And my brother came with me because he was nervous about me going to Vegas. I don't know why. He was nervous. And he came with me. And he's handsome now, but he was even handsomer 8 years ago, like really extremely good looking. And Brett had never met him, and we all met for dinner because Brett was shooting a movie, and I think he liked how John looked. And John asked him about Imperial Bedrooms, the femme fatale in it. And he
yeah,
said, what Amber Heard. And
yeah,
Brett said,
Rain Turner.
exactly. And he said, yes. He said it was based on a guy that, he was involved with. He's like, but yeah, it was her. And that was the only time I've ever been around when someone got that kind of information out of him.
That's funny. I'll quickly tell you the
Yeah,
reason I fell in love with Brett as a person is I met him at the Luna Park signing session.
love that book. My favorite of his. Yeah.
Was terrified. Me
Yeah.
being the absolute fucking stan I was. I had a backpack with
Yeah.
all my goated editions in it. Not necessarily, I can't afford the first on a few, but I've got really cool, weird versions that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And then I got my Luna Park signed, and then I said, I've got a few more of your books in my bag, and I know they're being dicks saying one book only, but can you sign these? And he was like, of course, like
Nice. Yeah.
you're buying them, you're reading them, I appreciate it, bring them out. So I had
Yeah.
a stack, and I got my goated first edition of Glamorama signed, with like the cheese hole sections
Yeah.
of all the
I
celebrities.
remember it. Yes, I remember it.
And then he was like, these are really cool, thank you. And I said to him, oh, we're both friends with Dennis Cooper. And he's like, yeah. And I said, and he's like, how'd you know Dennis? And I said, well, crazily, when I was a student, I finished film school. I adapted one of his short stories for a short film. And he was like, oh, cool, what one? And I was like, oh, it's Container from I forget the short story collection. And he was like, Container, what's that one? And I was like, It's the one where he's going through Amsterdam and he's just doing loads of drugs and
Because yeah,
fucking all these prostitutes.
yeah,
And I said to Brett, does that ring a bell? And without missing a beat, he slammed the book and
yeah.
said, yes, and slid it and said, for very different reasons. And just slid the book over. And I was like, goat, comic. And he's got the sheet and grin on his face like,
So
that's fucking
great.
funny. And I knew it, but he kind of retained the composure. And he was like, enjoy. And I was like, go. Best interaction ever.
He is. He's the coolest. He's the. I love it. I mean, like, I love him. I never would tell him because I mean, if you ever, I don't think he ever would want you to be tender with him. But yeah, no, I
I
love
tried to
him.
hug him once. Oh my.
Sometimes I make him. I like climb on top of him and make him take a hug,
Yeah.
just to torture him.
Okay, final dorky question to end on.
Yes.
The great Emma Roberts keeps on campaigning to play Joan Didion.
Yeah,
Who?
that's right.
Okay, if we set that up, who would you cast as Eve?
I did you watch Killing Eve, that TV show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
I just like that girl. There was a perversity to her, like and she had kind of a buoyancy and a little girl quality, and I liked her physicality. I thought she'd be great. I thought she'd be great.
Okay, it's
I
done.
feel like
Okay.
Joan's so easy to cast because every actress is underweight, but Eve, you got to get someone with God, you know.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
This was the most fun.
So much fun, buddy. Take care. Boom. That was me and the great Lili Anolik. Check out her podcasts, check out her other books, and check out her writing. She does the best long form interviews. I'm a big fan. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Joshua Eustace, aka Telephone Tel Aviv, for our beautiful music, and I will see you soon.